How do you defeat a man who's never known the taste of defeat? The bell rings, the lights blind, the crowd screams. But for Floyd Mayweather, none of it matters, because long before he stepped into million-dollar arenas, he had already fought wars in silence, wars no crowd ever witnessed. He wasn't born with luxury, he was born with fists wrapped in pressure. Grand Rapids, Michigan, not a place for kings, but somehow, a king was born there, a father with a past in prison, an uncle who trained legends, and a little boy who watched violence not on TV, but from his front porch. What happens to a child when fighting becomes his only language? At age 7, Floyd wasn't just boxing, he was surviving. His father taught him defense like religion. You can't get hit if you never stay still, he said. By 16, Floyd was outpacing champions, not just with power, but with precision. Where others threw punches, he delivered messages. Where others swung wild, he calculated every move, every step, every second. He entered the 1996 Olympics with a fire, but walked away with a bronze and a heart full of revenge. Not the kind that breaks things, but the kind that builds legacies. That moment wasn't his end, it was his beginning. How does a man respond when the world tells him he's not the best? He turns professional and never looks back. Fight after fight, opponent after opponent, Mayweather didn't just win. He dismantled. Oscar de la Hoya, precision. Ricky Hatton, knockout. Canelo Alvarez, clinic. Pacquiao, neutralized. Conor McGregor, humiliated. His defense was art. His offense was poetry. And his ego? Unshakable. He wasn't just chasing greatness. He was dragging it behind him, forcing the world to keep up. Why did no one ever beat Floyd, even when they trained harder, punched stronger, and wanted it more? Because Floyd didn't fight with fists. He fought with fearlessness. Every jab was backed by obsession. Every block was fueled by trauma. His opponents came to box. He came to win. He became Money Mayweather. But money wasn't the goal, control was. He didn't just fight in the ring. He fought the system. Promoters, cut. Managers, replaced. Floyd owned his name, his fights, his destiny. He chose the opponents. He chose the dates. He chose the dollars. And when pay-per-view numbers came in, Floyd wasn't surprised. Because he wasn't a boxer anymore, he was a brand. But when you fought everyone, who's left to fight? That question echoed in his quiet nights. The arenas got silent, the gloves got lighter, and Floyd looked at his reflection, not as a fighter, but as a businessman. The legend in the mirror asked him, "Now what?" And Floyd answered, "I don't fight for belts anymore, I fight for empires." How do you turn a pair of gloves into a billion-dollar empire? Floyd Mayweather didn't step out of the ring to retire. He stepped out to expand. When others slowed down after the final bell, Floyd was just getting started. He didn't fight just for belts, he fought for brands, control, and power. After conquering the world of boxing, Mayweather stood at the center of flashing cameras, drowning in millions. But while the world saw gold chains and Lamborghinis, Floyd was busy doing math, the business kind. Most boxers leave the ring broke, betrayed, forgotten. Floyd, he rewrote the blueprint. Why did Floyd refuse to sign with promoters, even when it risked his career? Because he didn't want a piece of the pie. He wanted the whole bakery. That's why he built Mayweather Promotions, a company that let him run the show. He chose the fighters. He chose the venues. But more importantly, he took 80% of the revenue from every blockbuster event. Where others sold their names, Floyd licensed his. His fight with Pacquiao made over $600 million. McGregor, close to $300 million. And guess what? Floyd wasn't just a star, he was the boss. The promoters who once owned fighters were now renting space on his stage. How does a fighter with gloves end up owning Vegas properties, clubs, and even fashion stores? Because Floyd understood something brutal: attention is currency. He never stopped performing. His lifestyle became a billboard. The jets, the watches, the strip clubs. It wasn't just luxury, it was marketing. Every Instagram flex brought eyeballs, and every eyeball brought dollars. He invested in real estate, opened clubs, partnered with fashion brands, even started his own TMT, the Money Team, merchandise line. He didn't sell t-shirts, he sold the dream of invincibility. But the more empires he built, the more walls he had to defend. What happens when your circle grows, but trust shrinks? Floyd's money brought vultures, fake friends, risky deals. There were whispers of lawsuits, unpaid debts, shady contracts. The same cameras that once praised his brilliance now started sniffing for blood. Was it all sustainable, or just a diamond-plated house of cards? And through all of it, Floyd smiled, flew his jets, threw money into crowds, because whether it was real wealth or illusion, the world was watching, and that attention kept paying him. Can a man outrun time with cash as his fuel? Because one day, the fights will stop, the crowds will forget, the dollars will slow, and when that happens, what's left? But Floyd Mayweather doesn't believe in endings, only transitions. In the ring, he fought to stay undefeated. Outside the ring, he fights to stay relevant. He's no longer just a boxer. He's the product, the producer, and the prophet. Because for Floyd, the real fight. What happens when the cameras stop flashing, but the bills keep coming? Floyd Mayweather had everything, the glory, the gold, the game in his hands. But even legends bleed in silence, because what the world sees is only the highlight reel. What it misses is the cost of being invincible. After walking out of the ring undefeated, Floyd walked straight into the battlefield of business. He had the money, the influence, the spotlight, but what he didn't have was patience. He moved fast, sometimes too fast. Can an empire built on speed survive the weight of mistakes? From luxury investments to extravagant club ventures, Floyd went big. He opened businesses, dropped millions, flexed harder than ever before. But behind the closed doors, things weren't always adding up. Reports started surfacing, failed ventures, business partners claiming foul play. Some investments quietly died, others crashed in public view. He said he made $1, $2 billion, but how much of that was real and how much was just image? That question began to chase him, and for the first time in his career, Floyd wasn't ready with a counterpunch. What happens when the brand you built starts to swallow you whole? TMT, his lifestyle brand, was supposed to go global, but merch sales dropped. Interest slowed. People weren't buying like before, not because Floyd changed, but because the world did. New names rose, new faces entered the spotlight, and Mayweather's throne, it started to feel borrowed. He tried to stay relevant. Exhibition fights in Japan, social media rants, more flexing, more flash. But every time he threw money into the air, people started asking, is he still rich or just trying to look like it? Lawsuits crept in. Tax troubles echoed from the past. Old business partners turned cold. The man who once owned everything now had to defend everything. Can a man outrun the very system he mastered for decades? Floyd wasn't just fighting anymore, he was surviving. Every mistake was louder because of who he was. Every flaw, magnified by his own success. And that's the hardest part of being a legend. When people don't want to see you rise, they want to watch you fall. But maybe that's the real test of greatness. Because true champions don't just fight in the ring, they fight for everything they've built. And Floyd, he's still standing, bruised, maybe, but not broken. He became a blueprint for power, for pride, for both the rise and the warning. So the question isn't how Floyd won 50 fights, it's how he's still fighting today with no gloves, no ropes, and no referee. The question is, are you ready to fight like that? If this story hit you hard, if you felt the legend beyond the lights, then don't just watch, become part of it. Subscribe now. Join the journey. Because every legend starts with one choice, to rise or to repeat.